Everyone's heard House of the Rising Sun. The Animals made it famous, but they didn't write it, and they weren't the first to sing it. It's been played by everyone from Joan Baez, Bob Dylan, to Five Finger Death Punch, to name a few. But this song is much older than you think, and it's timeless. It's a song about addiction, regret, and that all-too-human pull towards the things that ruin us. So let's dig in and see if we can solve this mystery together. What is the House of the Rising Sun? To figure this out, we're going to start in Bristol, Tennessee in 1895. That's when Clarence McCurry was born to a one-eyed fiddler and hellraiser named George McCurry and his wife, Rosabelle Ashley. After George was run out of town, Clarence took his mother's name and became Clarence Ashley. Raised on the guitar and banjo, Clarence joined a medicine show at the age of 16. Now, if you don't know what a medicine show is, this is where we get the term snake oil salesman from. A slick showman selling miracle elixirs that really were made of cocaine and opium mostly. In between sales pitches, there would be acrobats, magicians, musicians, other performers that would keep the crowd entertained. And Clarence actually made a living for the next 20 years as a traveling musician, comedian, and roustabout. And there's something we need to be honest about here. Clarence Ashley, like many white performers of his era, performed in blackface. It was an unfortunate part of the medicine show tradition, and that's painful to look back on, but it is important to acknowledge and learn from. Now, in 1933, Clarence Ashley would change music history forever. He recorded a song that he had played at every show he'd ever played for Vocalion Records called the Rising Sun Blues. This became the first known recording of House of the Rising Sun. Clarence Ashley said he learned the tune from his grandfather, and there is evidence that the song has been around for quite a while before the 20th century. Some historians even trace it back all the way to the 1500s, but there is a lot of disagreement there. I think one thing we can say for sure is that addiction and darkness have a long history in song. Now, Clarence Ashley may have been the first, but there are two early recordings that I feel really deserve special attention. The first is from 1935 by the Callahan brothers, and they called it Rounder's Luck. Now, Rounder's Luck has a darker feel to it than Clarence Ashley's version, and I feel like it really foreshadows some of the really haunting versions to come, like the Animals, Sinead O'Connor, to name a few.
There's a place down in New Orleans that's called the Rising Sun, where many poor boys to destruction has.
And the second is a recording from Alan Lomax. Now, Alan Lomax is a fascinating character in his own right, and I am going to cover him in a future video, but he recorded a 16-year-old miner's daughter named Georgia Turner, an a cappella version of House of the Rising Sun that is just absolutely beautiful.
The only time he's satisfied is when he's on.
And Georgia actually highlights one of the really interesting things about this song. She sings that the House of the Rising Sun has been the ruin of many a poor girl, and there's some evidence that the song was originally sung from a woman's point of view. What's really interesting though is that unlike a lot of songs from this era, the lyrics are surprisingly consistent across most versions. And that first line, it's iconic. There is a house in New Orleans they call the Rising Sun. And please, if you play this song yourself, don't change the location. In prepping this video, I listened to dozens of versions of House of the Rising Sun, and the one thing that really bothered me is when it's not set in New Orleans. I say, let it live there. It's where it belongs. The song usually mentions a mother who's a tailor and a father who's a drunk and a gambler. The narrator really seems to be following in their father's footsteps. But there's always a warning to a younger family member. Don't do what I have done. Now here's where the song is really different from a lot of others from around this time. So in a lot of murder ballads, things that deal with regret comes from the consequences, right? Prison, the gallows, damnation. In House of the Rising Sun, it's a little more subtle. We know that the House of the Rising Sun ruins lives, and yet we're drawn back. The song always includes a verse about going back to New Orleans, to wear that ball and chain, and sometimes to spend the rest of their lives underneath the House of the Rising Sun. And that's really what makes this song so haunting. It's not just a song about a place, it's a song about being drawn to ruin. And that brings us to the big question, right? No one quite agrees on this, but let's see if we can figure it out together. What is the House of the Rising Sun? So let's start with the most popular theory. It was a brothel. And there is some evidence of this. There was a hotel in New Orleans that burned down in 1922 called the Rising Sun Hotel. And while there's no official records, excavators have found evidence that it was in fact a brothel. There's also a well-known madam in New Orleans named Marianne Le Soleil Levant. French for rising sun. Some folks even believed that the House of the Rising Sun was a syphilis ward for prostitutes dying from the, at the time, incurable disease. Some folks say it wasn't that at all. There's a building in New Orleans, the Parish Women's Prison, and what's carved above the front gates? A rising sun. Give some more context about wearing that ball and chain, right? There is another theory, and this is the one that I particularly like. It doesn't matter what the House of the Rising Sun is. The House of the Rising Sun doesn't need to be a building, it's a pattern, right? The House of the Rising Sun is wherever you go when you stop fighting. It could be drink or blame or anything else that eats at you while making you feel safe. The places that can feel comforting even while they're destroying us. So what is the House of the Rising Sun? It might be a brothel, it might be a prison. Maybe it's just that part of us that keeps walking towards the fire even when we know how it ends. We'll never know for sure, but I think that's why the song lasts. Every generation has their own House of the Rising Sun and someone to sing it.